Welcome to Getting Started with AI. This is a small business owner's guide to generative AI and GPTs for small businesses. This is part of the West Central Minnesota SBDC AI Resource Lab. Now, AI is just one of the many ways that SBDCs across the country and beyond support startups and existing businesses. So reach out to the SBDC nearest you for more information about how the SBDC can help your small business. Welcome back for those of you who joined us for video one, where we demystified AI. Now we're going to actually show you how to use it. And we're going to show you how to build your own chatbot in 3 minutes or less. And then our last video of this 3 video series is to help get the most out of AI, where we share some best practices and tips and tricks to help build your confidence in using this technology. Now, keep in mind, this is an emerging technology, and this is a training video just barely scratching the surface. Our goal is to oversimplify this for the beginner user to uh, help you have a good starting point to using this technology confidently. So, what is generative AI? Well, I can tell you one thing, it's not a real person. It's a smart computer program that you can talk to like a real person. It's like having a friendly, super smart assistant you can talk to anytime. It's programmed to understand what you type and give you answers, give you advice, things like that. And it has this giant brain power called a GPT that it's kind of like us having this 10-minute training video. It just scratches the surface of our intelligence, but we need all sorts of stuff in our brain to act and behave like real humans and to interject appropriately and to respond. And so these things have a giant brain power, even though we might only be using it for one or two little things, right? So you've heard of ChatGPT by now, and this is just one AI model. There are so many others like it, and we might use the term chatbot synonymously with these things. So if you hear a new term, please do pause the video, look it up, do some more research, and try to stay on top of this ever-evolving technology. So there's not going to be a test, but GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And it's how these large language models are programmed to act like real humans. And so the key features are like its natural language understanding, which means that no matter if you're a PhD, a high schooler, or even an elementary schooler, you can talk to this in your natural tone, in your natural language, and it'll talk back to you in a way that you can understand. It generates text. That's what it does. It can generate images too, but it's largely generating text. So think of it as like spell check or synonyms on steroids. Instead of just one word at a time, we can do paragraphs and whole stories at a time. It can remember context. So the more you talk to it, the more it builds a memory. And so ultimately, what it tells me versus what it tells you and the responses that it generates are customized to each individual user. And it has a vast knowledge base. Consider basically the entire internet is its knowledge base. So what can we use this for? Well, anything conversational. So think about like chatbots for your customers or your employees, or even just you, like a virtual assistant on your phone, but just a lot smarter and stronger. We can use this to generate content such as emails, blogs, even social content. We can even use this to program computer languages like HTML or any other language from English to Spanish to French, you name it. The list goes on and on, but there's a lot of use cases. We're just sharing a few, again, just to scratch the surface and introduce you to this new technology. Now, as wonderful as this all is, it does have some limitations and things to consider. Number one, we're out here experiencing the real world, walking on two legs, touching, feeling, and seeing the world. But these things are just computer programs that don't have that context. So the more that we tell it, the more it will give us what we want out of it. Otherwise, it hallucinates. We'll talk about that in a second. But it doesn't have the contextual sensitivity that you and I have. It's very capable of bias and making mistakes. Now, as far as biases goes, there's at least 5 different specific biases that I know of that it's capable of. So that just emphasizes that we need to make sure humans maintain oversight and management, and humans should always be the ultimate decision makers. And the last thing to note here is this tokenization process. These things don't think in English. Much like the English language has words that are broken down into letters and syllables, it breaks down your prompts into letters and syllables, and those things are called tokens. So it's much like how you can take a really long word and break it down into the meanings of each syllables. It will do that, which makes it much smarter than just a word search because it actually tries to understand what you're typing. This is why it's so good, by the way, at converting your commands into HTML or even in other languages, because it's not just word searching, it's breaking down the thoughts and the meanings of each word. Now, it can make mistakes, certainly. We call those things hallucinations when it comes to AI, which either happens when it's just wrong altogether, like made up, or maybe it's stated with 100% confidence when the actual confidence is less. Now, in that case, when we're talking human to human, we might say things like, oh, I think, or I heard so and so said, which gives us the automatic, like, this might not be true. But AI doesn't give us that. AI just says it all like it's true. But the thing is, this isn't new or surprising. We used to joke that, everything on the internet is true, right? Well, AI is going to be the same thing, especially when the internet is its database. So be careful. Fact check things. You can even ask it to fact check itself if you want to, but be careful with what comes out of AI. Also, privacy is something to consider. You probably already thought about this by now. I will make the point to say that, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google, these things are all taking our privacy every day, and we've signed off on them with those agreements that we all click accept on. So we shouldn't just point the finger at GPTs and chat GPT and all that. But do, follow your code of conduct. Don't share sensitive information. You can hide certain things to make it more anonymous, but just, yeah, certainly don't be putting in there anything that's private or trade secrets or things like that. Also, keep in mind there's legal and ethical considerations too. We mentioned biases and discrimination. So if you're using this to evaluate a bunch of candidates for a job, make sure that the humans are still looking at the resumes and not just AI. Make sure that you don't just blindly copy and paste and take credit. If AI helped you write something, be transparent about that. Make sure you can at least explain it too. So um, don't just copy and paste. And don't let this replace humans in terms of like responsibility, accountability, decision making. Humans are still very critical, and we have that critical thinking that AI really doesn't have quite yet. And also note that if AI creates something, you can't copyright that. It's not a trademarkable thing. So continue to learn more about legal and AI and ethical and AI considerations. Depending on how you're using it, this might be more or less relevant to you. Now let's get moving into the point of this is how to actually build a chatbot. And so if you've ever been on your favorite website, you probably noticed that they have that live chat button. And if you started chatting, you quickly found out that that wasn't a real person, at least at first. There's a chatbot in there to answer all those frequently asked questions that 100 people a day were calling them about. And with the shortage of labor and the efficiency of time, it doesn't make sense for that business to answer the same question for 100 different people every day. So it's easy enough to use a chatbot. You might want to use this for, new employee training even. You don't have to think about just customers, but maybe new employees. And so let's take a look at what if we had an operations manual that was like 150 pages and we wanted to look up a specific policy, right? And so that's what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be building a chatbot with an ops manual that can answer our questions about policies and rules. And this is something that you can easily do too. So let's check it out. All right, let's see how long it takes to build a bot. The point is not to hurry through this and rush as fast as we can, but just to illustrate how quickly it can be done with a basic working knowledge. So we're at the bottom of our website here where we will have this bot living. I refresh the page. There's no bot at the bottom. Okay. We're looking just above these social links below the map. There's nothing here. So we're going to start by navigating over to Bot Sonic, our program that we'll use, and we'll click create, start creating this thing from scratch. So we give it a name, and then the next prompt is to give it some info, give it stuff to learn so it can give us the info that we're looking for. So we are uploading those 3 documents, the Minnesota Operations Manual, some frequently asked questions that we had here at our region, as well as a policy that we developed here for our region. While it's training itself and learning that stuff, we can also add our website as well as the deed SBDC website. I think this will be a good source of info for it. So we went ahead and uploaded it with that information. And as it's doing that, we'll go ahead and navigate over to the settings. These settings are pretty much ready to go out of the box. So the only thing I want to change here is a little welcome message. Now, I don't think this thing is going to be the expert at all things Minnesota SBDC, but it's an experiment. So let's just see what happens, right? So then we need to connect this to our website, and we're going to do that with some HTML code. You don't have to know HTML code to build a website. Just like us, our website is built on GoDaddy, which is very copy, paste, click and drag kind of stuff, much like Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, or any of the others. So we'll just navigate to the page where we want this bot, and we scroll to the area. So here we are on our cat page at the bottom above our social links. Where'd it go? Here we go. And I'll click add a section. We're going to go ahead and add an HTML section. And we can just copy and paste the HTML code that BotSonic provided us right here in this custom code area. It's going to take take a minute to think. Meanwhile, I'll give it a name. And we also needed to replace some bits of this code with our own website. So we'll just do that really quickly. Right there and right here. And it's struggling to find some space here, so we're just going to give it a little breathing room and center it on the page. So if we preview this, we should see something that looks like a bot. Let's publish it and try it out to see if it works. So I'll just navigate over to our website and click refresh. It only just takes a few moments, so we should be good to go here. And it's live. So you can see how easy it is to build a chatbot when you know what you're doing. It only just takes a few minutes. It takes a lot of practice to get to that point, but you can do it too. This is just hosted on one of many AI models. There's a free and a premium version, so do your research on what features and functions you want. And again, it took less than 3 minutes to build this, so don't get discouraged if you're a new user. And please join us for our next training, where we're going to be giving you some more tips and tricks and practical real-life advice for using this. The key takeaways for today's video is that AI is accessible to everyone, but they do have limitations, so be careful with them. And please join us for our 3rd video in the series about getting the most out of AI. Thanks for joining us.